Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for Dungeons and Dragons and Dogpiling. The Triple D. Yeah, we're going to talk about TSR games returning. I was very excited to hear about TSR games returning to tabletop. Not everybody is excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. They're the people you'd expect.
Twitter is very salty. We're going to talk about how TSR games is getting dogpiled on Twitter, because of course they are, because the current audience for D&D, a lot of them, at least the ones on Twitter, are not very nice people. They really aren't. So we're gonna talk about that and kind of where hopefully TSR is going. Again, myself, very excited about it, but we knew this was gonna. I knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah, you said this. You said, "Hell, Twitter tries to shut it down." That's exactly what happened.
Because there is some, I believe, baked-in animosity toward TSR because we've got Gary Gygax's son being a huge part of it, and Gary Gygax has been posthumously canceled by a lot of current year Dungeons and Dragons players because they don't like his political leanings.
Right, because you cannot have any entertainment at all that isn't overly political by Twitter.
Yeah, and that is the audience that D&D has courted under Wizards of the Coast management. So we're going to talk about Ernie Gygax Jr. Being taken to task by Twitter, and just a friendly daily reminder, Twitter is not the real world.
Exactly. And they're all starting to realize it now.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my God, the marketing department said that there hardly anybody on Twitter actually buys our shit.
You don't say. But yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I knew as soon as they went on the Twitter, this was going to happen. The most downvotes we have ever gotten on any Clownfish TV video was one where...
More than the Adventure Time one?
Yeah.
So for real?
Yeah, it was like almost half. It was almost half downvotes. We basically got brigaded by a bunch of Critical Role fans who came into a video where I was kind of laughing at the Dragonlance creators throwing shade at Critical Role, and they had to take this down. This reject modernity with Critical Role, and then embrace tradition with Dragonlance. Of course, Dragonlance creators in a legal battle with Wizards of the Coast. And, it was I thought it was kind of funny. And, but it sat out there for like 3 weeks, and all of a sudden all these Critical Role stands came in and started brigading, but it didn't matter. Anyway.
It only matters if you care what they say.
We got lots of money. We got lots of money off of it. So I don't really care. We're going to talk about that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 202,000 subs. Thank you for the support. We're sailing into 250,000.
I know, it's weird when you say it that way, but yeah.
And you know what happens after that?
Nothing.
Then
we try to go for more. I was like, what? Nothing.
Yeah, the next big milestone is 1 million. Like
you got quite a ways to go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while, guys. But thank you so much for the support. It's definitely appreciated. We do talk about RPGs, tabletop gaming, somewhat, not a whole lot on this channel, but I was a big tabletop gamer back in the day. And I was trying
you mean the days when everybody was kept out, and the nerds were the ones bullying the minorities?
Yeah.
You mean back then, according to Twitter?
Yeah. So let's talk about what's going on here with Dungeons & Dragons. And I've put some videos out there before being critical about where D&D is going, that, under Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons has become weirdly political. Things like, orcs being a racist caricature and all these things that were never intended to be in the game. They're being projected now by... I'm going to say new players, I think.
People are just looking for things to complain about.
Yeah, Twitter and Tumblr.
Yeah, it's like this group comes in and they're looking for things to be offended by, and they keep finding it. And then what they do basically is they take over something and say, well, it's ours now, ha, ha, ha. And then they're like, if you don't like it, don't play. People are like, hey, we weren't going to play. And then they go around trying to make something else, and then they try to take that too, because you're not allowed to have... It's like... They keep, for the people that are saying they believe in diversity and inclusion, they are the most narrow-minded exclusionary group people I've ever seen. They're like, you can be diverse and inclusive as long as it's what we want. It's like you can have whatever as long as it's our sensibilities. But anything else, no. We want more chairs at the table until we kick everybody else out away from the table. But you don't have to make your own table, because if you build another table, they're going to take that table too.
Yeah, it's so weird to see this, because back in the day, and some other people bring this up, and I'm going to bring this up, if you played D&D, you were a nerd, you were an outcast. And now we've got people on Twitter saying that the nerds and the outcasts were actually the alpha males that were keeping them out of tabletop gaming.
It's funny because, all these people who are saying that weren't effing around.
You weren't even alive
back then. And that maybe that's their truth for them, like a few years ago. But when people were playing it, for most people you're yelling at and calling names, that was not the case. You had football people that were pretending they didn't know you in school to play Dungeons and Dragons afterwards because they didn't want people to know about it.
If you played D&D, you did not broadcast it in school unless you wanted to get beat up. I mean, that is the truth. I mean, that's how it went for most people. And now all of a sudden we've got a whole new group of players who are saying that it's those nerds who themselves got beat up that are gatekeeping the hobby. And I'm not saying there aren't dicks who run campaigns, and I'm not excusing dickish behavior, but to paint everybody
with vaginal behavior.
I'm
not gonna gender discriminate here.
But to paint everybody with the same brush, like this one, Queer All Year replying to TSR Games, original tabletop RPGs being like classic white
But that
fun.
wasn't true.
That wasn't true.
And that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of these lies that they masquerade with, and they say that it was this, that, and the other. They weren't even there. They didn't even know. And they were full of shit, and it's not true. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody should be excluded from it. I think that you should play what campaigns you want to play. And here's the cool thing about Dungeons & Dragons. You can make your own stuff up. You can make your own campaigns. There are tons and tons and tons of adventures out there that suit different people, different opinions, different things they want to do. It's not just for one group of people, as Twitter keeps trying to spin it. And it's not an either or thing. It's everybody can play it. I don't understand why they're trying to be so exclusionary and then yelling about stuff they imply or interpret as exclusionary.
Oh, I have tinfoil hat conspiracy theories.
Where's the coast? Afraid of competition?
Yes. That is a personal theory. We'll talk about what kicked all this off first. So Ernie Gygax goes onto a podcast live from the bunker. And I watched a little bit of it. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, but he was talking about, kind of why they're getting the band back together with TSR and, some of the problems they have with Wizards of the Coast, because they are a big corporation. They are. And he basically said, hey, there are a whole bunch of people who would get back into tabletop gaming now, but they don't feel like it's for them anymore because the demographic has changed. And
basically what he said was, I heard it, he was saying that a lot of artists and players were getting called names.
Yes.
Kind of he was saying what sounded very similar to what you had with Melanie Britt about the She-Ra thing, where a bunch of older fans were being harassed, mocked, etc. under this, saying that they were, against inclusionary things when that wasn't necessarily the case. It was just because a bunch of people on, Twitter decided that they wanted to embrace it. And it was basically there's room for everyone. And he said these people were kind of being pushed out and basically what people were saying was that they were against, and he didn't know how to put it, so he was said like modern sensibilities and
yeah, I mean, look,
because he was trying to be diplomatic. I think
he's trying to be diplomatic, but he has to be watching this situation, especially since it centers on Dungeons and Dragons. His father created this game. This kicked off, tabletop role playing as we know it, and it's become very Hollywood lately. It has. I mean, we got to meet Matt Mercer. He's an okay guy, right? But Critical Role and that whole Hollywood, RPG scene, Hollywood nerds have kind of glamorized it, and there are a whole bunch of people that came in that were not original players, and they're really just trying to...
And they're trying to spin a narrative that they were the ones that were kept out until recently, and that's not what happened. And a lot of them weren't even there.
You weren't even there. You weren't even there. Okay?
So, it's just... And back then... it was like when you found people to play with, it was an exciting thing. It wasn't like you weren't kicking anybody out because you wanted people to play with, and there were not people to play to begin with. So you sure as hell weren't gonna limit your the group more than you already had.
The only way people got kicked out is if they were assholes.
We don't kick out enough assholes anymore, hence Twitter.
Or they they didn't want to play by the rules, because that's one thing that's definitely changed in Dungeons and Dragons is it's become like an OC generation tool. It used to be an actual game with rules. And now you can play with the rules a little bit because it's basically your game, but now it's
It
just...
always has been, though. You kind of could make your own things up, and you had basic idea, and then you played with the campaign books. Yeah, it was one way, but if you wanted to make up your own shit, you could.
Yeah, and everybody's campaign's different, right? But it was pretty open. You could do whatever you wanted to do.
But if you wanted to make characters not be straight, white, and male, you are more than welcome to do so. Always has been the case. This whole idea that it hasn't been is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, I don't think they ever had, I mean, my memory's a little foggy of the original rules, but I don't think they ever had penalties. Now, they did have, like, species. It's not even fair to say race, because we're talking different species of people. We've got, elves and dwarves, and they're not technically human. They're other species.
No, they're coded as, according to the people now that are coding people as. I'm like, who's more racist? The person coding people as that, or or the fact that there was different groups that were, invented for a game?
And, there were modifiers for that, but, it's like women, they didn't have like, you're female, you got to knock off 5 strength points for that because, tits make you weaker. There was nothing like that in the game. And again, rules are flexible. Anyway, he was basically stressing there are a lot of people that are disenfranchised. This is something I've talked about that's gotten me in trouble. And I'm going to go on record as saying the tabletop RPG community current year can give the Shiris a run for their money in terms of toxicity. And I don't think it's everybody. I think it's a very vocal minority.
And they're alt accounts.
And they're alt accounts on Twitter and on Tumblr. And you want to talk about gatekeeping.
Oh, I know. I love it when they go on about gatekeeping, when they're the biggest, most exclusionary gatekeepers I've ever seen.
Right.
Like they're inserting politics and things that didn't have it. They're inserting, projecting agendas on the things that didn't have those things. Going around like excluding people right and left, and then then calling them name. And if they don't agree with you, it's not because they have a good reason. It's because you're an istophobe, and they are trashy exclusionary people. And then they're going on about inclusion and diversity. And basically it is as me and my friends are the ones that are going to sit at the big kids table and we're going to take their table away. It's like you were never excluded to begin with. You could come and sit at the big kids table all you wanted. I mean, if recent years that's different, that might be the case. But at least since, it was started, everybody played it who wanted to play. I mean, this whole idea that only straight white guys were allowed is not true.
Yeah, so we've got, Schmoopy here saying, hey, let's not be jerks to each other, right? We've come a long way, and that's true. I mean, nerds always were the outcasts, and they took Schmoopy to task on Twitter. So this is like phase 2. Now phase 3 is they're tagging TSR in on posts that don't have anything to do with Dungeons and Dragons.
That's what they did with Gina. They were trying to cancel Gina Carano and Rosario Dawson. They put Disney Plus posts about nothing to do with that stuff, and they try to take those over too, because they scream and get their way once in a while. So then I think they should have their way all the time. And my comment to them is, then don't play it. It's not for you. That's what you kept telling everybody else who didn't like the new She-Ra, the new Thundercats, or whatever. Well, you have the old one. It's not for you. Don't buy it. Don't buy this one. Go play the other ones that there's a lot more of. Just go play what you have out there. Why does it matter?
That's the thing. I don't understand. Just don't. If you don't like TSR, and they all talk about how they've reacted. I think they've actually reacted very well, but it's not going to matter because all these people are going to get together.
Until something else shiny comes along.
Yeah. So anyway, being made fun of as a nerd is not the same as being marginalized. Look, I'll say nerd acceptance. Nerd acceptance has come a long way since the 1980s. You used to literally get beat up and shoved into lockers. Now, I didn't get shoved into a locker because I was too fat, but I did get beat up.
Only people that have ever bullied anyone have been the people that were straight white and male, and it's only been recently. And the nerds are trying to be exclusionary to everybody else.
And these are all people with cartoon avatars, by the way.
I thought that meant you were alt-right.
I know, right? Yeah, they can't decide. I've heard if you use an anime avatar, you're alt-right, and now we've got all these people hiding behind their avatars. So you don't know who they are. Need bullying to be brought back. Thinking fondly about the time when I tried to get literal Nazis thrown out of a TTRPG society, but I'm the one who stopped going. Why? Oh, prove it.
Oh, there's never any receipt.
Prove it. 27 followers.
Yeah, there's all these accounts with very little followers suddenly starting up to comment.
Well, I want to talk about that. So it's all the same. Yeah, you have to, you're a horrible person if you support TSR. Yada, yada, yada.
That's what I don't understand. they keep telling people when they don't like things like the new Star Wars, or they don't like the new Thundercats or the new She-Ra, well, it's not for you then. Then if you don't like it, then go away and just don't buy it then. Go play what you like. So that they tell people that. But then when something else comes out that's new that they don't like, they're supposed to control that too. And so, well, don't play it then. Don't support it then. Go play what you like. What's the big deal?
TSR shit the bed today. Oh my God. It goes on and on and on. Anyway, so it can...
And what they were saying he said wasn't what he actually said.
No. What he basically was trying to say... Diplomatically, was that basically tabletop gaming has gotten weirdly political. People are being called names just because you should be able to come to the gaming table and leave your politics at the door, but modern Dungeons and Dragons has gotten so intermingled with Tumblr and Twitter and all of this political stuff now that, the entire industry... Look, the only time I've ever heard of YouTubers getting physically attacked for having opinions was in tabletop. Mm-hmm. It was the quartering, and one of these people from one of these conventions who is in this scene tracked him down and punched him in the head.
When he lost in court, too.
And he lost. He had to actually apologize on camera. But what I'm saying is, that is the level that some of these people are at. And over a freaking fictitious...
But it's a game.
Game.
It's a game that's set up to be inclusionary just from what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take it and you can do whatever you want with it. It's so open that you can do anything you want. And if you want to make characters that are a certain way, no one's stopping you. That's what I don't understand. But then then it became a case of, but you only were allowed to have characters that were a certain way because they said so. And the only saving grace is that, thank God, most of the world isn't on Twitter, and most people are starting to wake up to the fact that Twitter's a cesspool of shit, and that, they're not representative of the actual world or the community or the customers, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, what's going to happen? We'll talk about this. We've seen this happen so many times. We've been doing this channel for 4 years now, and we've seen how it happens. So this is the next post that TSR put up, trying to diffuse the situation. Just, hey, here's some people jamming out. Of course. Could you please directly expand upon the comments made by Ernie Gygax about gender identity? Does this company support transgender people? Expand, they said. He made no such comments. Please stop trolling us. Thank you. Asking you a question you're scared to answer isn't trolling. Hide your head in the sand you want. We see you. Thanks for your support. Retweeted what they said. TSR said, we are intolerant of hatred of any kind from all sides. All players are welcome at our table. Thanks to the role-playing game, we have a deep commitment to diversity and inclusion. You keep spouting these smarmy, empty answers, thinking you're smarter than everyone else in the room.
Says the person spouting swarmy bullshit all the time.
So looking at some of these people, they don't have a lot of followers, right?
They're following way more than they have following them.
Yeah, this is very on the nose. Trans girl who loves D&D, Marvel, Star Wars, and politics. 35 followers. So,
of course, do not bother these people in
do
any way,
not
shape, or form.
harass these people.
I mean, I'm sad that I have to say that because,
they'll say, oh my God, you're trying to get people to harass us.
But you know what? That was like, you're bullying us as we're going around trying to bully other people. That's
public.
what will happen. They're bullying us as we're out because we're getting bullied for bullying other people.
In this same interview, they only cherry-picked a comment.
Of course, that's what they always do.
Yeah, Ernie Gygax said that gaming allows everyone, no matter their size or shape or whatever, to associate, share fun, and have quality of life that would not be available if we were all rated on our own physical capabilities. And here's what's going on. I believe this is a threat. This is a low-key threat. Okay? They're saying, hey, this guy came in here. He's from a blog. You guys should really address this. Get out ahead of it before it buries you. The denial is not working and makes you look really bad. 3 likes.
It's not denial. They just said we're just, that's not what we said. We're not, like I said, it's denial. But still, it's like, wait. So you have to admit to saying, you better get out here and admit you said something that you didn't say or they're going to bury you. And if you admit to something you didn't say and apologize, they're going to bury you anyway. So at least go out. If you're going to be buried, at least go out that you were sticking to your guns.
So they're trying to get TSR canceled right out of the gate. TSR just made the announcement like a week or 2 ago that they were coming back. Now people are like, oh, TSR has been out there for like 12 years now. No, that was a different TSR. That was somebody else trying to use the TSR name. This is the actual team of people that help create Dungeons and Dragons. This is like the real deal, right?
And who would it hurt? Who benefits the most if they do poorly?
Well, it's interesting. Right when the TSR announcement came out. And again, this is all tinfoil wizard hat, I guess. I can't say mouse ears. Tinfoil wizard hat. Wizards of the Coast put a thing out talking about how last year was the best year ever for Dungeons & Dragons sales, and they thank Critical Role and Stranger Things for that.
Well, that's probably true.
It probably is true. But they put a whole big thing in talking about how Critical Role is basically the future of Dungeons & Dragons. This is...
Well, they also sponsor Critical Role.
Yes.
So, of course, they're going to say that.
Now, the funny thing is that the kids from Stranger Things, that actually was pretty accurate to what it was like being a D&D player back in the day. You know, you were a bunch of misfits, but you found each other and you had your found family and all of that. You know, that's really how it worked.
That's only happened in the last few years.
These two articles came out, boom, boom, today, the same day that they're dogpiling on TSR. How autism powers my D&D about inclusivity and diversity.
Again, people are always inclusive.
Yeah, and this one in Teen Vogue, which, you know, we know Teen Vogue.
Oh, yes, it's also the place that tells you how to do witchcraft with your period blood.
That's not in D&D. I think a lot of fundamentalists back in the 80s probably thought it was, but it really is.
I love how it just flipped, you know. It used to be the religious, right that was all canceling everything, and now it's the religious left.
So this, again, came out today. D&D Renaissance could usher in more accessibility and inclusivity. All these talking points, all these randos come out of the woodwork and start attacking TSR. Again, tinfoil wizard hat. I gotta wonder if there isn't something going on back channel that Wizards of the Coast is maybe freaking out a little bit that TSR is coming back. Because a lot of old school fans will throw their money at TSR because there have been complaints about the direction D&D's gone. Now they've got their Critical Role money and they've got their Stranger Things money, and most people are none the wiser, but a lot of people would love for TSR to come back.
I don't see what the big deal is. I just, okay, fine, play the ones you want to play, don't play the ones you don't want to play. It's not that big a deal. It's not that hard. I mean, if they're not a threat, why go so far to, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. It's crazy. Now, Ernie even said in that interview, I did catch that part, where he said, look, they're never going to be a threat to D&D because D&D is synonymous with tabletop RPGs at this point. He said, that was the diamond.
Even though the same people, which is
I know, right? That was the big IP, right? It'd be like George Lucas doing something outside of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. He tried and it doesn't work very well. But so I don't know. Something's definitely going on. Twitter is having a hissy fit, and I would not be surprised if you see a lot of these publications like Polygon, et cetera, starting to slam on TSR because these people are going to go running back channel. We've seen it happen in comics.
Yeah, it's just, but here's the thing. It's always inclusive. Just, don't be a dick. It's not that hard. You can play however you want to play, but this whole idea that only now is it truly for those who have been bullied and oppressed. Bullshit. That's not true. Stop lying. And, it's just, you can have your table and have everybody have chairs at your table. And people are allowed to go start another table and put chairs at that table. That's okay. They're not hurting you at your table. Doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right. And that is actually diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, that's what real diversity and inclusion is. Not this bastardized version, which is basically exclude everybody who doesn't have a letter and the pronouns in their bio or whatever, and then say it's because, they're on the side of the right side of history. And it's like, bullshit.
We're going to wrap this one up, I think. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.